government assistance was made for white people. The fact that the programs were made in like 1935, like in the 1930s, says it all right there, given the fact that black people were not even considered people under the law at that time. But I've really been doing some more research and reading, and I read an article and they were talking about how like up until like the 60s or 70s, black people really could not qualify for government assistance. And that is absolutely disheartening, being that now it hasn't even been 100 years later that black people are now the face of all racial stereotypes regarding government assistance in Section 8. Meanwhile, these same programs were never even made for us. Meanwhile, black people had to jump through hoops to get qualified. Meanwhile, people talk about black fathers not being in the home, and these same government institutions were not wanting the men to be there. Like, what the fuck?
So I posted about white folks on food stamps, and one thing I kept seeing was that welfare was created for white people. I knew that it was created during the New Deal, so I did some more research because I didn't really know the whole story, and I thank you guys for responding and helping me learn stuff. So during the Great Depression is when we saw the beginning of things like Social Security, unemployment insurance. But here's the kicker. When Franklin Roosevelt built those programs, he had to make deals with Southern Democrats in Congress, the same folks who were big fans of Jim Crow, to get the support of these racist white Southern politicians. The programs were designed to exclude farm workers, domestic workers, jobs held overwhelmingly by black, Latino, and indigenous people. So right from the start, black and brown families were pushed out of benefits so that white people could get them. Then we move forward to the 1960s, and there's this war on poverty. It finally opened up welfare programs more broadly, and that's when food stamps became permanent. Well, permanent, we don't know what Trump's going to do to them, but they lasted a long time. And guess what? The minute more black and brown families started accessing this help, the politics shifted. Welfare got a new image and a new target. By the 1980s and 90s, with Ronald Reagan and his gang, they pushed the welfare queen myth. That's a racist dog whistle meant to turn public opinion against safety nets by blaming black women for poverty that white policies created. That's the truth, you guys. So yes, welfare was built for white people, and when others finally got in the door, they tried to burn the house down. If you want to blame the right people, you got to get curious.
I'm coming to y'all annoyed as hell. I'm annoyed because, and this is really not their fault, but every time I have a conversation with a person of color about poverty and about systemic injustice, what do they cite? The culture of poverty, right? The idea developed in the 60s and 70s, let me remind you, that something is inherently wrong with poor and black people, and that is why they cannot escape poverty, right? And I just need us to investigate that a little bit more. First of all, the 60s is post-segregation, right? This is prime time when we're seeing the development of policy to help rectify generations-long disparities in housing, in healthcare, in the medical care system, in the justice system, right?
Okay.
So why do we think this theory was developed at this time? Who did it benefit for us to believe, and by us I mean people of color, blacks, Latinos, indigenous mainly, for us to believe that everything was our fault and that we could not be helped by changing these systems or rectifying these past wrongs, because ultimately something was inherently wrong with us. They were arguing that post segregation, right? So when there's still housing segregation happening, blatant housing segregation and discrimination, blatant school segregation and discrimination, right? They're making this argument even then, and people believe it applies now. So again, let's consider who it benefits for us to believe that and who it lets off of the hook, right? It is very advantageous for the people who are in charge of these systems, people in power, to be able to blame us for the disparities that they have caused, right? And to make it us internalize that we then are the root of these issues, that Black people live in ghettos because Black people have a mindset to live in a ghetto, rather than that Black people live in ghettos because of racist redlining that was employed throughout the 40s, 50s, 60s to separate the funding and development support going into specifically Black neighborhoods, which was legal at the time, right? And so we are making it very easy for people to continue to exploit us by buying into that lie, right? Instead of pointing out a culture of poverty, we need to point out the culture of exploitation, right? If something's wrong with somebody, maybe something's wrong with the culture that allowed for people to continue to exploit other human beings.
Poor white Americans are shocked that Black people aren't suffering the way they are. But here there is the truth. Poverty doesn't care about skin color, and the system has been lying to us all. Why? My name is Lick. In today's video, we are going to talk about why US government created welfare was created by white people. We got a more video like this. I'll come back with a comment. Remember that credit goes to the owner of the video.
You want to talk about white privilege? I was born dirt poor. Roaches in our food, mattresses on the floor, eviction notices taped to the doors, kind of poor. My parents, their side hustle was beating me and my siblings bloody. I missed more meals than I can count. When we did eat, it was ramen, canned foods, or whatever we could steal from the gas station. There were 8 of us kids. Don't come at me like I grew up in some quiet backwoods town either. We weren't hearing deer rifles, we were hearing 9mm and Glocks on a nightly basis. Not because we were hunting, because we were dodging stray bullets in the inner city. I had a baby as a teenager, thought maybe I could break the cycle, went to college, flunked out quick. Life was swinging before I even had a chance to plant my feet. Then the military came knocking, promised me structure, a future, and a way out. What I got? Another flavor of hell. Straight out of basic, they shipped me to Afghanistan. 19 years old, couldn't buy a beer back home, but I could carry a rifle, kick indoors, and watch friends die in pieces. I came home to a wife who had cheated on me while I deployed, ended in divorce, missed my baby's first steps, first words, first everything. I got the title Dad, but only for 2 days every other week when the courts allowed me. So I drank, I numbed it out, I drowned it in alcohol and women, hopped from job to job, security, government contracts, even worked with the feds for a minute, but it all fell apart. I ended up homeless, ashamed, alone, and broken.
Okay.
Now, I've been sober for 4 years, been through more therapy than most folks can stomach, read hundreds of books, and here's what I figured out. As bad as I have had it, if I was Black, I probably wouldn't have survived it. That ain't an opinion, that's truth. Black Americans make up 13% of the population, but 38% of the prison population. 1 in 3 Black boys born today, they're expected to end up behind bars. That ain't by accident, that is policy. That's centuries of systemic racism passed off as justice. The 13th Amendment did not abolish slavery, it rebranded it. It says slavery is legal as punishment for a crime. That's why we got corporations making billions off of prison labor while folks inside earn cents an hour if they're lucky. That clause was written to target Black Americans, and it's still doing exactly that. Now I run an organization called West Virginia Fights Back. We feed people, we take care of people. No strings, no red tape, no begging for scraps. We take care of our own because the government won't. My dream? A Fights Back chapter in every damn state. Abolish the prison industrial complex. Burn the cage down. Build something real in its place. Fred Hampton said, you can jail a revolutionary, but you cannot jail the revolution. This is not about shame. This is about responsibility. If you've had the privilege of not being targeted by the system, you've got the duty to help tear it down.
That's cool.
In 1935, Social Security was invented by Franklin D. Roosevelt. 85 to 90% of black families were excluded because they excluded major categories for workmanship in agriculture and domestic, and that's what black families made up of. So white families were able to experience wealth through Social Security, through savings for their retirements and building wealth through Social Security, whilst they had a 15-year head start on black families because blacks weren't able to get those programs until 1950. They weren't able to get those benefits. And in 1964, the SNAP was invented, and when white people were on SNAP in 1964, they were known as falling on hard times. But whenever black women or black families went on SNAP, they were considered lazy. Even the President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, called black women welfare queens.
White man is explaining how he born and he struggled the way black people struggled. For those who think poverty is for black people, I know, because poverty doesn't care about color, skin of someone. When the government give you opportunity, you achieve more, because most of the system has been, punishing black community. Any mistake, you go to the prison. That's what's happened. I still have another. Let's watch it. I come back.
It's only the 4th day of Black History Month, y'all, and I'm already pissed. Let's talk about this article. This is from Bloomberg, y'all. It will take Black Americans 320 years to catch up to white neighbors. It will take more than 3 centuries for Black Americans to achieve the same quality of life as their white neighbors, after the racial gap widened in more than half the country in the past decade. The 320 years is in rural counties like in Caddo Parish, Louisiana, and in more urban areas like New York and San Francisco, it's around 160 years. Only 48% of U.S. counties reduced the racial gap in the past decade. No U.S. county with a significant Black population has achieved parity, and the 37 that are close to it house just 0.1% of the total U.S. Black population. The study assumes that results for white residents will remain at today's levels, but notes that those estimates are conservative because their conditions are likely to improve over time. So we're seeing the quality of life decreasing for Black people in this country and the quality of life improving for white people in this country. Noted. They analyzed 25 metrics related to the quality of life, including rates of poverty and food insecurity, job opportunities, life expectancy, and the incarceration rate across the U.S. from megacities to rural areas. And the report highlights that a number of solutions can be used to help bridge the gap, including affordable housing in mixed income areas, health insurance for U.S. residents without coverage, and the expansion of high-quality early education programs. I'm upset for so many reasons. Obviously, the first is the fact that that gap even exists, period. But also, like, during our month of Black History Month, how could you come so close but be so far? In this article, obviously the article is reporting on what's actually in that results from McKinsey, and I'm going to go and actually read that to try to see what they say. But the fact that slavery, Jim Crow, discrimination, like, how is that not mentioned in the article as the cause for this gap? Like, how can you talk about a symptom but not talk about the cause of the symptom? And it's just so crazy to me because, like, okay, we've made some progress in the sense that, like, for many years, they would have never made an article like this.
That's cool.
But now you know what the issue is, and you're not actually doing anything to solve the problem. And to me, that's worse than saying we're just going to ignore it, period. Because you know what's going on, but now what's the next step? Like, let's stop talking about it and let's start actually doing them actions and not just acknowledging the fact that we know that these things will improve people's lives, but actually doing the things to improve people's lives. This is exactly why I started my page and I make videos like this, because I'm ready to hold corporate America, the finance industry, and the business industry accountable, okay? Y'all say that you want diversity, you say that you want to see improvements, okay, so let's do the work. And the issue is that a lot of times they're not willing to go as far as they need to go. They just want to do a little bit and not do the whole thing. So I'm here saying it's time to step up. And in every place that I'm in, I will be holding people accountable to actually do the steps that will lead to actual change and improvement. I'm sure that y'all could tell, like, I'm very riled up. Like, I didn't even plan on making a video today, but I saw that article and I read it and it just upset me so much that I was like, I need to speak on this right now.
Sometimes people has, right to express themselves according, what they think, but don't even be affected by those statistics, which is even most of them are not even true, because everything they provide, they just to manipulate black community. So thank you for watching today's video. I hope you like it. Share your comments. See you on another one. I love you guys.